Greetings once again, people of God. Welcome to the Political Ambassador of God, Part 2, the Spiritual Activist Representative. Last time, we're focusing on Daniel. Daniel, who was highly favored by God to the extent that this Daniel was then preferred above the presidents and princes because an excellent spirit was found in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. I explained about the realm of the spirit where there are governments, two types of governments, the governments of light and the governments of darkness. And I explained to you that there is always going to be two different types of governments that are voted into power by men, but they would already have been elected in spirit. They are defined and determined in spirit, meaning that the ballot box voting system is an already delayed practical system that is done by people in the carnality of lack of knowledge. And today, I want to take you back way before the time of Daniel. There was a man who is actually the pioneer of this spiritual office, the political ambassador of God. And this man was Joseph. Joseph was later exiled to Egypt by his own brothers, by his own family. And he was in Potiphar's house where he served very well and was given a position. And later he was falsely accused by Potiphar's wife. All that being caused by God because he had prepared a destiny for Joseph. And Joseph is in prison for 2 years. And inside those 2 years, the light of God was still with Joseph. He interpreted dreams of two different men inside that prison. And the first dream that he interpreted and the second dream, both of these, they caused the death of one servant, and the other dream that he interpreted, it determined the elevation of that servant. Joseph served 2 years inside that prison, and it came at a certain point of time in Genesis chapter 41 verse 15 that Joseph is taken out of prison for a reason, because the king has dreamt a certain dream that did not have an interpretation. And an interpretation was required, but there was no one to interpret that dream. But one of them that had received an interpretation of a dream from Joseph, who was with Joseph in prison, related the matter to the king, and Joseph is taken out of that prison. In Genesis chapter 41 verse 15. And the Pharaoh said unto Joseph that had been taken out of prison, I have dreamt a dream, and there is no one that can interpret it. I have heard people saying that you can interpret a vision. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. Joseph had an understanding of dreams and visions. He also had an understanding of interpreting them. But the level of interpretations that Joseph is now doing is no longer an interpretation of individuals that he did while he's in prison. It is now the level of interpreting dreams that are politically related to a nation, not just interpreting individual dreams of individuals. That is another level that Joseph operated. At one time, he interpreted those dreams, like I said, in prison. Those were individual dreams. And it came a certain point of time when Joseph had to interpret national related matters as a political ambassador of God. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, in my dream, behold, I stood on the bank of the river, and behold, there came out of the river 7 kings, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in the middle. And behold, 7 other kings came up after them, poor and very ill-favored and lean-fleshed. Such as I have never seen in the land of Egypt. And the lean and the ill-favored king did eat up the first 7 fat kine. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored as at the beginning. 17 cows eating 7 fat cows. That was the dream of the king. And in Genesis chapter 41 verse 22, and once again I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. And behold, 7 ears withered, thin and blasted, with the east wind sprang up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was no one that could declare it to me, meaning there was no one to interpret this. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, in Genesis chapter 41 verse 25, the dream of Pharaoh is one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. God showing Pharaoh what he has to do through Joseph, who is not just an interpreter, but a political ambassador, because these 2 dreams that the king has had are political related dreams that concern his nation. And Joseph interpreted that the 2 dreams were the same. The 7 good kine are the 7 years, and the 7 good ears are the 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kine that came up after them are the 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh, what God is about to do and show Pharaoh. These interpretations that Joseph gave to the king were interpretations that concerned the economy of Egypt, the famine that was about to come, and what was expected of Pharaoh to do. And remember, Joseph is still in his prison clothes, but he is already revealing and interpreting dreams and visions that concern higher political related matters. At that position, Joseph is already concentrating on national related matters. Just like most of you believe that one has to attain certain developments in terms of qualifications that allow you to be able to address presidents. You have to attain certain physical qualifications for you to address presidents and kings. That is not how God functions. Joseph, at the level of being a mere prisoner, he was already addressing national political related matters using visions. And in Genesis chapter 41 verse 30, Joseph further said, and there shall arise a famine of 7 years, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. This is not being said by an economist. This is being said by a dreamer who has graduated to being an interpreter and further graduated to being a political ambassador. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous to the nation. And for that dream that was doubled unto Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it, and it will come to pass. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh look out a man who is discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Joseph is further able to appoint himself. Just like what I said in part 1, when I said it was not the king who appointed Daniel, but God who appointed Daniel. But in this version, Joseph is able to appoint himself. But he doesn't mention the man that the king must appoint. But he knows that there is an appointment spiritual that is going to be made. But because he is using the wisdom of humility or the humility of wisdom, he doesn't mention himself. He instructs the king to make an appointment, meaning that Joseph appoints himself. He doesn't need a parliament, he doesn't need a cabinet to determine or to sit down to decide for his appointment. As a spiritual political ambassador, now let therefore Pharaoh look for a man that is wise and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this and let him appoint officers over the land and take up the fifth part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenty years. This is Joseph already managing the economy of Egypt. And let them gather all the food of those good years that come and lay corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be stored to the land against the 7 years of famine which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. A man that is coming out of prison wearing prison robes is now interpreting and revealing international related revelations that concern political related issues. As big as Egypt is, a man that has got solutions for Egypt is found in prison. We would have expected to find this man in parliament. We would have expected to find this man as one of those intellectuals. But this man is not part of the intellectuals. He's just an ordinary man that is coming out of prison, the last man that you can ever expect. And this pleased Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a one as this man, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? Pharaoh, though being a king that is not anointed by God, but he understands the things of the Spirit, and he understands the Spirit of God, the need of the intervention of God in a nation. He questions, can we find such as this one man in all of Egypt? What is special about Joseph? The Spirit of God that is in Joseph, the ability to solve, to interpret not only dreams, but to solve political related matters to the extent of interpreting the economy itself of Egypt, is the ability that has been found inside Joseph, that has not been found in any other servants that spend all the time with Pharaoh in his palace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God has shown you all this, there is none so discreet and wise as you are. Because earlier, Joseph is the one that had instructed Pharaoh to find a man of his own heart. But Joseph knew that this appointment that Pharaoh was going to make, it was his spiritual office. But like I said, he used the wisdom of humility. Thou shalt be the ruler over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than you. The one that was only going to be greater than Joseph was the king, who was Pharaoh himself. Of course, he's talking about a physical position, but the man that is now ruling Egypt in terms of administration and determining what happens in Egypt is Joseph, who was the ambassador. And God allows Joseph to be the political ambassador in Egypt, to rule over all the affairs of Egypt, politically, spiritually, and economical. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and gave him a fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried before him. And they bowed to him, and made him the ruler over the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. That was the position that was given to Joseph by the king himself, to rule over the land of Egypt. And this wisdom and knowledge that is going to be used by Joseph as the political ambassador is not wisdom or knowledge that has been attained from any academical learning institution. It's not any knowledge that is in the Constitution, in the book of Constitution. No, it is direct wisdom and knowledge that is coming from God. That is of being the higher rank of being the political ambassador who oversees all political related matters, anointed by God himself. So, people of God, I hope you have understood that there is a spiritual office that is above all political offices. It does exist under the sun. An office that reveals, that interprets and predicts all political related matters using visions, using dreams. Joseph attained that office. Daniel attained that office. And I have no other man that I know that has attained the level of that office more than the Revelator.